Hi there. This is Digital Citizenship and Policy 78. Now, I know that sounds like an awfully big title. It should say 101 after it or something like that. But what I'd like to do today is to take a look at what both those things are and how they pertain to what we're doing in the classroom. And the reason I've decided to do this, and in talking to Rita and to other people who are talking about what the school is going to look like under a Wi-Fi situation, is that many teachers and administrators that I've spoken to have said, well, here we go with this BYOD idea, right? The whole idea of bring your own technology. And we haven't yet dealt with how we're going to operate with that within the school. I mean, we've got this great idea of having Wi-Fi and everyone being able to interact and connect up to the internet, but we haven't really dealt with exactly how that's going to work within a school setting. Well, that's not necessarily true, because Policy 78 has been in existence for quite a few years. The only difference happens to be that the changes this year include the use of digital citizenship as sort of an overarching theme. And with us now going towards a Wi-Fi situation within the schools, it's become even more important. Tell you what, let's take a couple of seconds and go through this and see if I can give you an idea of what we're actually getting ourselves into, okay? First and foremost, I want to talk about some definitions. And the first definition I'd like to talk about is where students see themselves. All too often in the media, and from parents, of course, citizens or residents or Canadians, any way you want to describe us, we're not described that way any longer. We're talked about as taxpayers. And what that has meant is a change in the way students see themselves and people see themselves in relation to governmental authority, okay? By being a taxpayer, hey, I paid for this, I'm going to be able to use it. And you probably heard this being said in your classroom. You know, someone decides they're going to use their cell phone to text their mom, and they'll say, well, I paid for it, I should be allowed to use it. That's the overarching idea that many of our students come to school with. And Policy 78 tries to deal with that within a Wi-Fi situation. Okay? What we're looking at is the change from being a taxpayer to the idea of citizenship. Whereas being a taxpayer, it's basically a consumer interchange, right? I give you something, you give me value for my money. As a citizen, you're really looking at a person who has both rights and duties. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, okay? So rights and responsibilities. So when we talk about digital citizenship, what we're really talking about is teaching those rights and responsibilities in a computerized form, okay, as it relates to the use of, good citizenship online, email etiquette, protecting private information, staying out of trouble, that kind of stuff. All those things that you read here are part of digital citizenship. And it's the kind of thing we really have to start working with our students with as we begin to open up their access to the internet and various other Web 2.0 formats through the use of the Wi-Fi. So one of the ways they've done it is or the Peel School Board is addressing it anyway, is through Policy 78. Now, if you haven't been in where I'm going to show you right now, if you haven't been in this area, you should. It's some excellent, excellent stuff. What I'm going to show you is all under this, if you see there just to the right and about 3/4 up the screen, that chiclet. It's Peel in the 21st century. Not too long ago, I was talking to someone who was telling me that one of the things that he finds interesting about education is if you took someone from the 1850s and put them into a modern day office, they wouldn't recognize it, okay, with the amount of technology and the different processes that are used. Take that same person and take them to a modern day factory, and with the automation, the computerization, the robotics being used there, they wouldn't recognize the place either. But if you took someone from 1850 and put them into one of our classrooms, they would recognize it immediately. Sure, the lights are different. Sure, there's a few things here that are different, but let's be honest, the processes aren't that much changed from 200 years ago. Well, they're about to change. And the 21st Century Teaching and Learning site, off that little chiclet off your thing, gives you a run, or off your webpage, gives you a rundown of how they've changed. It takes a look at the vision that our school board is taking, the teaching and learning possibilities, how physically they're integrating Wi-Fi, and they're also including, well, who's making the decisions and how much is being spent on it. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because these are all interesting pieces of information, but what we're really discussing is right here, our policies and our code of conduct. And more, that's becoming a conversation with teachers because they want to know exactly where they stand when it comes to dealing with kids with the technology in their classroom. This right here, policies and regulations, digital citizenship is exactly how the Peel Board has dealt with it in the past and how they're going to deal with it in the future. It has been revised, as it says in the top right-hand corner, right up there. It's been revised to reflect what's going to happen over the next 6 months with the integration of every school being Wi-Fi. Starts off with a definition of digital citizenship, calling it the norms of responsible behavior related to the appropriate use of technology. It's kind of a wide-ranging statement, but it does get into the specifics. Here's where they are. There's the definitions of technology and who the user is. And notice when they talk about users, it's students and parents and staff and volunteers and contractors and individuals. Anybody who logs on to the Wi-Fi system in a school is considered to be users. And that includes teachers. We have responsibilities and rights here, just as our students do, just as the superintendents and the principals and everyone else does. So the policy starts off with a basic idea of what everyone's responsible for. Pretty straightforward stuff. The technology is supposed to be used for educational purposes. In fact, it even mentions specifically that the technology is not to be used for political or union business unless it's approved by the board. It's one of the reasons why, as your steward, I've asked you to get in touch with me and send me your home email address. It's to stay within the bounds of this, or the boundaries of this policy. There are responsibilities for superintendents, principals, and managers and supervisors. So it's not just us. We have our 3 responsibilities, which are outlined here. Students, they have 5. And they range from everything as simple as using the board technology for recreation, for educational and curriculum-related purposes only, to in fact using their own technology for the very same reasons. So they're specifically being told in the policy, even though it's your iPad, it's your iPod, it's your iPhone, you still have to use it according to what you're being asked to use it for, and for educational use only. And when they say board property, keep in mind that's not just the school itself, the building proper. It's also the property that the building is on. So from the sidewalk on Center Street back to the parking lot, or back to the parking lot all the way back to the elementary schools and to the fence at the other side, that's considered board property. How they use their equipment here is really held underneath the policy that's being set forward. There is a definite idea towards working with digital citizenship, with using email and data and technology in appropriate ways. And if they're not, it's their responsibility to come forward and tell us about it. And that the care and the maintenance, and more importantly, the security of their personal devices is up to them. If they lose it, if it becomes damaged, if it becomes lost in any way, shape, or form, we ultimately are not responsible. So the responsibility falls on them, and something that they should know about coming into it. That's not all what the policy talks about. It also talks about the guiding principles, the scope by which the board's taking a look at this situation, what intended use means. They discuss the security and safety of board data, including yours as a teacher and an employee here. What constitutes a responsible use of the storage areas that we've got, and also giving a detailed idea what digital citizenship really means, and unfortunately also the remedial and disciplinary action should there be consequences necessary for someone who breaks the policy. And it's pretty considerate, by the way. They discuss everything from suspensions to progressive discipline measures to legal action. So they really are thinking about what they're doing at the board level. Now, it depends on how we apply it, and that's what the discussion is going to be. What I'd like you to do is take a few notes down, maybe ask a couple of questions, bring them to the PD on Monday, and then let's discuss what do we see fit as, first of all, as the code of conduct that we have to implement within the school, and also how do we see our application of this through the board policy that's already set. All right, see you on Monday.